going on? John here, another video. Today I'm going to do a how-to video from shore angler's perspective, how I drop shot. As a shore angler, I got to utilize everything around me. I got to utilize certain techniques more than others. One of them, where I fish, is a drop shot. Where I fish gets hit hard with fishing pressure, whether it's people throwing chatterbaits, wacky rigs, Texas rigs, weightless Texas rigs, Senko style worms, and especially live bait. Now there's a whole misconception about fishing a drop shot from shore. A lot of people think that it's strictly a technique that you use fishing off of a boat vertically, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. To be honest, I've been drop shotting from shore since 2014. It's something I've learned and been quite successful using, actually. Now let's talk first about the rod and reel. I first started using a St. Croix Mojo Bass drop shot rod with a Shimano Stratic 3000 FI. Now that to me is the ultimate budget drop shot combo. And now the Mojo Bass being an SC3 graphite, you have a more crisper action. The rod that I was using, the Mojo Bass drop shot rod, had an SC2, so I had a little bit more parabolic bend. But the SC3 will have a more crisper action. So I've been using that from all the way from 2014 all the way to 2019, perfecting my craft of drop shot, and drop shot actually became my bread and butter. So I upgraded the reel to a Shimano Stratic CI4 plus the second generation CI4 reel, and then I finally jumped to an ultra high-end rod, which was a Loomis NRX. And I'm sure if you're subscribed to me, you've seen me using the NRX, the 822S DSR, which is the drop shot rod. I'm sure you've seen me using it from 2020 all the way to 2022. I've experimented with many reels. I've used the JDM Accent CI4 first, and then I bought a Vanquish, and I used the Vanquish, which was extremely light, and that's where I learned that for proper drop shot and sensitivity, I wanted to get the most sensitive and lightest combo, and that's when I switched up. I wanted to use the Vanquish for something else, and I bought the 2022 Shimano Accents, the 3000 MHG, and that is almost identical weight to the Vanquish. So coming to 2023, I have right here, this is my drop shot rig, the NRX Plus 822S DSR with the Accents. Just because I'm using this doesn't mean that you have to use it. I've been doing it for years. I've learned, trial and error what I like, so I decided to go ultra high end. If you're gonna drop shot, I suggest starting off like I did with a St. Croix Mojo Bass drop shot rod and a Stratic or Vanford. Now the line that I'm running on it right here is the High Vis Green Berkeley X5 and 6 pound to, you can barely see it, but I have about 15 feet of 6 pound Sunline FC leader. I also have the option of running 5. These are the 2 leader materials that I use right here. So this is the Super FC Sniper by Sunline 6 pound, and this is the 5 pound. More often than not, when I'm running these light leaders, I get a lot of critiques about my drag being loose. Now, using this light of line, I'm fishing I'm fishing around weeds, weed edges, and ledges. I get to places where, is it smart to use this light line fishing around all this type of cover? Probably not. Is it ballsy? Yes. High risk, high reward. With the clear water that I fish, I mean, I could see a weed edge 50 feet out. That's how clear the water is. I told you before, it's ballsy, high risk, high reward. That's why my drag, more often than not, is loose. Okay? 6 pound and 5 pound leader. I've even broke hooks with a 5 pound leader. So the key point, now I'm not going to get too much into the rod and reel. I'm going to save that for a review video. But you want a really good drag. And that's where this comes in. So Altogether, this combo weighs 9.2 ounces, roughly between 9.2 9.3, and it's extremely sensitive and light. Those are the key things, through my experience, what I wanted in the ultimate drop shot setup. So here's what I have, what I normally run: RoboWorm rebarb hook, 1/0 Gamakatsu light wire, and it's tied with a Palomar knot. Now, I'm not going to show the Palomar knot how to do it because there's a million videos about how to do it for drop shot. And I have my leader. It's about, I would say, about 20 inches down to the clip where my weight is. So this is the Great Lakes Finesse clip. I'll show you after. To an 1/8 ounce Swagger tungsten weight. So over here, the first row, I got the Swagger tungsten. Right, so this is the Vader. They're matte black, 1/8 ounce. The standard ones, 1/8 ounce. And the Vader teardrop. And these are all 1/8 ounce. And then I have the Reigns Slim TG drop shot. This is 1/16 ounce. This is it in 3/32. And then I got the Ryugi Delta. This is a 3/32 ounce. The second row, right here, as if I'm fishing less than 7 feet, or if I want to slow down the fall, and also too if I fish the free rig. And that'll be in another video if this video does good. These four right here are the 3/16 ounce decoy drop shot stick sinkers, and the reason why I got those is because just in case if it's windy, I find that with an 1/8 ounce you kind of get impeded by the wind a little bit. So the 3/16 ounce will help me get the same or further casting distance during the wind, and also be able to maintain the bottom contact. So now let's get to the terminal tackle that I use. So the reason why I use these is because it makes changing weights a lot more efficient, a lot quicker. I don't have to chop my line whatsoever. And then what I use to attach my weight to my leader is the Great Lakes Finesse quick shot clip. Now, if I got fish smack in a certain depth and I have to cut the line to change weight, whether I gotta go heavier if the wind starts and I need to go from an 1/8 ounce to a 3/16 or a 3/32 to 1/8, I don't have to chop it and lose the depth. Because a lot of times if I ever have to chop my leader, I don't get it 100% identical to the last time. And a lot of times that ends up screwing me out of catching more fish. Because many times I've had to do that and I retie, I cast it back out, same bait, same everything, and it just dies. Why? Because I wasn't using the same depth anymore. That couple inch difference made the difference. Now, the hooks that I use are either the Gamakatsu rebarb light wire size 1/0 for my Texas rigging, or when I'm running minnow baits, because I Texas rig my RoboWorms. But when I'm running nose hooked minnow baits, I'm running one of these hooks. The Hayabusa worm hook finesse wacky 961 size 1, extremely thin wire, nice wide gap, great for minnow baits. The size 1 owners right here, the Mosquito Light, the Deco Worm 20 big bite finesse, and these are a little thicker gauged wire just because I had a hook break last year with 5-pound leader. But you could see the gap on these hooks are extremely wide and open. And if you notice a correlation with all of my nose hooking hooks, right, with all of them, the eye of the hook is always straight and the gap is always completely open and offset with the line eye. I've lost more bigger fish with the Spin Shot EWGs than any other hooks I've used. I stay away from those, and these are the hooks, from my experience, that I stick with. Okay, so rigging, It's pretty simple what I do. I have a dark worm here. Stick the tip. You go a little bit on an angle. Like this. Stick it through the hole. And this is the 4.5 inch. I prefer using the 6. And there you go. With this hook, you don't have to go through, because these worms are so soft that even the smallest bass that can inhale it will push it down and instantly expose the hook. And when they run away, right, if you feel them pulling away, right, you feel the weight, or you see your line go, and then you move your rod and you feel it, all you gotta do is sweep it, and that hook's gonna penetrate. So it's almost an instant hook set, and it's a nice, straight, clean Texas rig. So now I'm showing you how to rig the minnow baits, and this is the kind of hook I use. This one right here is the Hayabusa, as you can see. Look at the gap compared to the eye, the opening. So go like this, and very simple. I go like this, under. And make sure you get a little straight, because if you don't get it straight, you may have some line twist, but it's not in the water, but it'll float and it'll stay. This is weedless. But then when a fish hits and you just give a little sweep, the hook point comes out. And you have a lot of the wide gap over here, providing the bite into the fish. So you still have a lot of the gap still open, and that's what I like. That's what I look for. My experience in 10 years, that's what I've learned. Alright, so now that I went through the terminal tackle and the leader and how I rig the baits, I'm going to tell you how I fish. Now, the reason why you see my drop shot weights having the rounded eye rather than the clip is so I can cast it. I tie a clinch knot and I cast it out to where I have to go. Sometimes I make far cast, like bombing it out. Sometimes I cast it close. Most of the time I fish it like how anyone would fish a Texas rig. And that's pretty much cast, let it sink. Sometimes I get it smoked on the fall. Great. But sometimes it hits bottom, and on a semi-slack line, I start dragging. And then I kill it, and then I reel a little bit of slack, then I drag it slowly again. I bring it to about maybe, I drag it about maybe 3-4 feet, making sure that the weight does not leave the bottom. And what that does, so my line isn't completely vertical, it's perpendicular, right? So it's on a 45-degree angle, and that's why I tie my leaders a little longer. So if I want to have my bait 8 inches, I tie it around 12 to 16 inches. If I want my bait at 12 inches off of the bottom, I'll tie a 20 to 24 inch. Sometimes a rule of thumb is to double your leader length depending on how deep you want your bait. You know, sometimes I've caught fish on the drop shot with my bait about maybe 4 or 5 inches off bottom. But my bait's always suspended. If I want to do complete bottom contact, I'll either throw a Texas rig with a bullet weight, or I'll throw a shaky head. Now another technique, what I do is I'll give it slight pops and then I kill it. And then a couple more pops again, then I let it go. And another one that I do is, if I'm fishing around weeds and I get through weeds, I kind of pop it out the weeds and then I kill it. A lot of times I get hits like that too. But those are just the ways that I fish it. Drop shot from shore is actually extremely effective. It's not just, you know, a rocky bottom kind of technique. I fish drop shot in weeds, sand, rocks, around trees. I fish it anywhere. One thing I've learned too is that the lighter the leader, the more subtle action your bait's gonna have. So lighter leader, give your bait more action without you doing nothing. You're not imparting action yourself, the current will be moving it. A little tiny bit of wind, it'll move your bait. A lot of times you don't have to do nothing. And also my recommendation, as I stated in the beginning, if you're new to drop shotting, you want to get into it, and you don't know what setup to get, my recommendation, get a Mojo Bass by St. Croix, the drop shot rod. It's not long, it's 610. Grab yourself either a Stratic, the FL, or grab yourself a Vanford. If those are a little too much for you, see on Facebook Marketplace or whatever buy and sell group or app you have, see if they have any Stratics, the CI4, the CI4 Plus, the FB, and the FA. Those are the reels I suggest starting out with. Then when you get your bearings, start upgrading if you desire to. So now that I explained all of that stuff, how to fish it, now here's the few types of bites that you'll receive while fishing the drop shot from shore. First is when you cast it out, you'll get smacked on the fall. So that one is pretty much on the fall. You'll see it right away, whether you close your bail or you just see your line just take a shot going. And second, I would like to call it the line jump. So with the line jump, what that is essentially is when you're working the bait, right? Or you're dragging, all of that. And then when you kill the bait, you'll just see your line just start moving, start pulling. That one to me is one of the most common while I'm fishing the drop shot. Third is feeling the head shake. So many times I've dragged my bait or I feel something, right? And I'm pulling and then I hold the rod and then I feel like a head shake. That's one of them. And another one is, the fourth, is the sponge. So the sponge is pretty much, you just feel something and you just feel weight. And then you set the hook and it's on. But yeah, that's the end of my video. I hope you learned from the information I provided, my secrets that I don't normally divulge. What works for me may not work for you. This is what works for me, what I'm comfortable with. But in fishing, you can never know too much. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.